All right. Good evening, everyone. Glad to be back. I'll give you a few minutes to catch up with the right link here since we had to disconnect. Hopefully, it'll be more stable this time. All right. We were unable to meet last week because we got hit with that severe ice storm up here in northern Michigan and literally just got our power back 2 hours ago. So go ahead and let me know in the chat once you're able to get in and see everything so I know everybody's back in. Whoopsie. Okay. All right. We've got some people coming in now. Okay. Once we have a few more people in, I'm excited. I have a little bit of a giveaway for you, but I'd like to make sure everybody has a chance to see it before I do that. So be watching for that. All right, so we'll be looking at chapter 3 this week in the book, The Renewed Covenant, written by Greg Witter. It's helping us to understand how it's a continuous story from the Old to the New Testament. It's not replacement theology. It's nothing new. The covenant is just building and perfecting. And so we're going to look at some very cool things tonight. The importance of blood in a covenant, and the idea of the olive tree and how we are grafted in. So I'm going to go ahead and get started in chapter 3. Let me just go ahead and find my spots. Again, if once you pop in, go ahead and give me a hello or something so I know that everything's working okay. All right, so the first thing that I wanted to point out this week, I see a few of you in, is the idea of the heart. Last time in chapter 2, we talked about how the Torah is now written on our hearts. It's not an external, it's not just the external, like follow the rules. It's an internal where we have a desire to keep the commands. So this idea of the heart is found in Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 31 to 33. So I'm going to go ahead and find that to read to remind us where we're at here. Jeremiah chapter 31. Welcome, Lori. All right, 31. Starting at verse 31. Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, not like the covenant that I made with their fathers on the day when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, my covenant that they broke, though I was their husband, declares the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And as we talked about a couple weeks ago, it's nothing new. It's just, instead of just being external now, it is internalized, giving us the desire from inside to do what he says. And so we're going to be building on that some this week. And I wrote some notes in here about this idea of it being written on our hearts. When we start keeping Torah, like when we first realize that the beginning of the Bible matters as well as the end, it can be just rules at first, but we need to move into this idea that this is a relationship. We are part of his family, and we are obeying because we're part of his family. Then we can just focus on ourselves and make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we're not going to be trying to please everybody else. And I think that's kind of a progression of a maturity that needs to happen as we start keeping Torah, is to move from just, I've got my checklist, which is what religion does. Religion gives us checklists. We are being given a relationship, a covenant relationship, which is completely different than just checking off some boxes. We definitely want to get beyond checking off boxes. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time in chapter 3 about the importance of the blood in the covenant relationship. I encourage you to go through those verses and one of the verses, I couldn't remember where it was. I didn't have a chance to look it up. If you guys can tell me, the verse that says, "In whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins." If anyone happens to know where that's found, I'd like to make a note of it, as to where that's found, because the life is in the blood. We know we have redemption through his blood. Covenants are built on blood. So blood is key to understanding the covenant. But I encourage you to look at that further, because I want to get over into the olive tree. That's what I really wanted to talk about tonight. So I want to get over in my notes here. And I believe that is found in Hebrews. Is it Hebrews or Romans? It's in Romans. Okay, let's move over into Romans. 1 John 5, 11, and 12. All right, let me look that up and see if that's the one I was thinking of, because I was thinking it was somewhere in one of the Johns. So let's take a look at that. 1 John 5. And this is, let me see here. This is the testimony that God gave us eternal life, and this life is in his Son. Whoever has the Son has life. Whoever does not have the Son of God does not have life. Totally has to do with what we're saying, but wasn't the one I was trying to remember. I may have to just go look it up later. I remember memorizing it when I was a kid. I just cannot remember where it was found. No. Okay, so we're going to move over to Romans chapter 11. Romans chapter 11. And verses 17 and 18, where it talks about this idea of being grafted into the olive tree, which pictures Israel. So let's see, chapter 11, verses 17 and 18. But if some of the branches were broken off, and you, although a wild olive shoot, were grafted in among the others, and now share in the nourishing root of the olive tree, do not be arrogant toward the branches. If you are, remember it is not you who support the root, but the root that supports you. And it goes on to say, then you will say, branches were broken off so that I might be grafted in. That is true. They were broken off because of their unbelief, but you stand fast through faith. So do not become proud, but fear. For if God did not spare the natural branches, neither will he spare you. Note then the kindness and the severity of God, severity toward those who have fallen, but God's kindness to you, provided you continue in his kindness. And so the idea here is, here it is farther down. I needed to keep reading. And even they, if they do not continue in their unbelief, will be grafted in, for God has the power to graft them in again. For if you were cut off from what is by nature a wild olive tree and grafted contrary to nature into a cultivated olive tree, how much more will these, the natural branches, be grafted back into their own olive tree? Now, I don't know if any of you have actually grafted a branch into another tree. I'm just starting to learn about growing things from cuttings. This is something that I've been wanting to learn more about. In fact, quite a few of our willow branches fell this week. And so I plan to make a strong tea out of the willow branches, which creates a rooting medium that helps you to get roots to grow off of stems to allow you to get new plants. So this idea of grafting is obviously, thousands of years old. People have been using grafting, using propagating to create more plants from the existing ones. So this idea of now being grafted into an olive tree, botanically speaking, I find really interesting. So we have Israel, I believe, was a wild olive tree. So one that was not cultivated by man. Yah did this. Yah made this wild olive tree. He brought Israel out of the nations. I think that's why it's called a wild olive tree. And then he's saying, we are not a different tree. We are added to the original tree. And as we go through this chapter, we're going to see where Judah and Israel and those who were not born into one of the 12 tribes, they all get joined together into the same tree, which I think is just an incredible, incredible picture. Again, I want to understand this whole grafting concept better from a gardening perspective. But spiritually, what we're seeing is we're all put together into the same tree. We're not, and that's what we had been taught our whole lives, is that, well, here's Israel and here's this whole other thing. We are all supposed to be the same, not bricks. I wanted to, made a note. Let me find my note on that. We are not to be like bricks where we're all exactly the same. We're to be like rocks that are each unique. We have uniqueness, we have diversity, we come from different cultures, but we're all brought together to Israel. We're all joined to Israel. And the perfect example of that would be Ruth, who was born a Moabite and chose to join herself to Israel. And after that, she was no longer a Moabite. She was an Israelite that then was the great grandmother of King David. I believe it was very close generation wise. But she was no longer identified as a Moabite. She was now an Israelite. And when we join ourselves into this covenant relationship with the God of Israel, with Yah, we get put into this olive tree. We all are Israel. So that branch that's grafted in over here is not a separate thing. It's part of the same tree. And then he talked about in Romans that the roots support us all. We are not over here just, I've got my little photosynthesis and I'm fine and I can be disconnected from the rest of the tree. We are all nourished from the root, which is Torah, which is Yeshua, which is the Holy Spirit, all of that. We are getting our nourishment from the base. So let me see. He said in the book study, he said, this covenant, while opening the door to Gentiles, is deeply rooted in Israel's history and identity. The Torah, the promises, the patriarchs remain central, ensuring that the new covenant builds upon Elohim's eternal plan. I like to explain that to people as a house. So we're looking at the picture of a tree. So it would be the roots and the trunk and the branches and the leaves. In a house, Torah is the bottom. It's the foundation. And then you've got the prophets and the writings and Yeshua's ministry and any prophecy that's building the whole house. You're not going to have a very good house if you start at the roof. You're not going to have a very good house if you only have windows. So you want the whole structure. You need a good solid foundation in Torah for it to work, for it to stand firm and not be built on sand, as it were. So you've got that picture of a house and the picture of a tree that gives us a similar idea. Okay, someone suggested, Tina, Ephesians 1:7. Let me check and see if that is the verse that I was thinking of. Ephesians. Yeah, I didn't have like electronics or anything this week to be able to look it up in my Bible software. So I appreciate your help. Yes, that is the one I was thinking of. In him we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of our trespasses according to the riches of his grace. That was in the ESV. I'm used to reading it in a different translation. But yes, the idea that the blood is central to redemption and to salvation. Okay, Ephesians 1:7, everyone. Thank you. That was the verse I was looking for. All right, so if we go back to this very botanical picture that we're looking at of the covenant this week with a tree, with grafting in, I immediately thought of John chapter 15, which is another very plant-based picture of this whole covenant relationship that we enter into. John chapter 15, and I'm going to start reading at verse 1. Okay, so this is Yeshua talking and giving them a picture, again, of this covenant relationship, which is now the Torah written on our hearts, not just an external set of check boxes, okay? All right, John chapter 15, verse 1. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Already you are clean because of the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, it is he that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and withers, and the branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be full. Okay, so again, this picture that if we are trying to be separate from Israel or do our own thing or reinvent what we think that our Creator wants us to do, we are not attached to that olive tree of Israel. We're going to wither and die. It's not real. It's not saving faith, because if we're not attached to the correct tree, it says that you're going to wither and die. Let me see if I can find where he said it. He is thrown away like a branch and withers, and the branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. Now, all of the branches that we saw fall down this week, a lot of them we knew were on older trees. They were already weak. And so, in fact, my husband actually said, like a couple days into this, he says, yeah, just kind of did a bunch of pruning because a lot of those branches, they were no longer bringing life to the tree. They were dead weight. And so he brought them down, and praise Yah. He did it. He directed every one of them. We did not have building damage. We have a lot of fence issues we need to correct, but a lot of branches that we were concerned about before and trying to figure out how to get them safely off the trees, he took them down and he made sure that they missed everything. We don't want to be those branches that are dead weight, that are just waiting for a windstorm or an ice storm and are going to get knocked off the tree. We want to be in the right tree, number one, which is Israel. We need to be connected to Israel. If we try to identify outside of Israel and that wild olive tree, we're on the wrong tree, or we're not connected to a tree at all. And if we try to be an isolated branch that's just sitting over here, it's, all those branches that fell that were alive, they are no longer, because they're not connected to the roots of the tree. So spiritually, I hope you're getting the picture here from these visual images. We need to be connected to our root. Yah created, he pulled Israel out of the nations. And as he pulls us out of the nations, he's connecting us to Israel, if that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So that's why, as we look more as what Paul Shaul was saying in the New Testament, he's saying there's neither Jew nor Greek. What he's saying is we're all in the same tree. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and in chapter 3, he talked about this. Let me see if I can find where we are no longer, I'm trying to find where I marked it. We no longer identify as Gentiles. We've been pulled out of the nations and connected to Israel under the same covenant. So I'm just trying to find where he was talking about that. I think I went too far. Okay. Okay. Galatians chapter 3, I think, is what I was thinking of there. Galatians chapter 3, verses 28 and 29. I think that's the one I wanted to point out. Okay. There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither slave nor free. There is no male and female, for you are all one in Messiah Yeshua. And if you are his, then you are Abraham's offspring, heirs according to the promise. So this is the same picture as the olive tree, that we all are grafted in together. We no longer are identifying as this people group over here, or this people group, or this religion. We're all under his covenant relationship, which is not religion. It's relationship. Okay, comment here. If we aren't growing in the fruit of the Spirit, we are going to be pruned away. And the only way we can develop fruit is by spending time with him. Yes, absolutely. Another plant analogy there, the fruit of the Spirit. If we are not in the right tree, making sure we're connected to the tree, connected to the roots, getting our nourishment from him, identifying with Israel, because that's that's where the covenant is, then yes, we cannot produce the fruit of the Spirit, and he can prune us off. And sometimes, even though we are in covenant relationship with him, there are parts of our life that he has to prune off that shouldn't be there, which is often not fun. But we need to remind ourselves that whatever that was, it needed to go, so he pruned it off. So there's a couple other things I want to point out. But yeah, as you go through this week, I encourage you to keep thinking about in Scripture these plant analogies that help us understand our relationship with Yah, how we are to obey him, and how it is not check boxes like man-made religions. It is relationship. It is Torah written on our hearts, so it's coming out from the inside, which is actually what makes fruit a fruit. I remember hearing someone explain this. A fruit has a seed on the inside. He plants that seed of Torah, that seed of truth inside us, and as it comes out, that's the fruit that we're bearing. So the more you think about these plant things, the cooler it gets. So I encourage you to see how many things this week you can connect. And like we've looked at the vine and the branches in John 15, the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians chapter 5. Yes, the Sinai covenant is a continuation of the Abrahamic covenant. It just keeps growing throughout time. It's, as we've been talking about, the word Kodesh is renewed, refreshed, not brand new, not different, just renewed like the moon, as we talked about a couple weeks ago. Okay, so there was a few things at the end I wanted to point out. I think it was in the practical application. Okay, so then as we look at it's coming from the inside out, like we start with the seed and then the fruit comes out from there. Yeshua was teaching that because he part of his earthly ministry was to show us how to keep Torah perfectly. He did it perfectly. He gave us a walking example. Matthew 5-7, we know, is the Sermon on the Mount. He was explaining a lot of it was, you're saying, let me read it to make sure I get it right. Anger and hatred, that's the seed of murder. Lust is the seed of adultery. So he's showing us, okay, you're looking at the external check boxes. I want you to look inside at the beginning of that sin, so that you can be, again, the Torah inside is going to bring out the right fruit. Welcome, Paula. Glad you made it. It seems like we always have a little tiny bit of technical difficulty. Thank you all for hanging in there for me. Okay, and then Micah chapter 6, verse 8. I remember singing this as a song at camp when I was a kid. It still stuck with me. Micah 6:8. Let me just find it here. Micah, there it is. Micah chapter 6 and verse 8. He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. So again, it's this, it's not just check, do this, don't do this. It is a desire to walk with the Father, to do what is right for those around us. And Yeshua went on to say that what are the two greatest commandments? To love Elohim, to love your neighbor, and it's, again, this it's the desire from inside that motivates us, and the Holy Spirit helps us with that. Okay, I want to see if there's, okay, so he was in, and of course the two great commandments are found in the Torah first, because it's not new, it's renewed. Deuteronomy 6:5 and Leviticus 19:18 is where those commands are first found. Let me go ahead and read those. Deuteronomy 6, chapter 6, verse 5. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. That is from the Shema that we know. And then Leviticus 19 and verse 18. You shall love, okay, to read it in context, you shall not hate your brother in your heart, but you shall reason frankly with your neighbor, lest you incur sin because of him. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. So again, in fact, he was saying, do not hate your brother in your heart. Yeshua was not teaching them anything new. He was just showing them, if we start on the inside, we're not having to deal with the sin on the outside, because we're dealing with the heart issues first. So, all right. I think that covers it for chapter 3. There's a whole lot more in there, and I encourage you to dig a little more in. About how blood is central to this idea of the covenant. And just glancing ahead, it looks like we're going to be looking at that more in depth in chapter 4 next week. And also this idea of the plant analogies of our whole covenant relationship with Yah is we are, in fact, here's another thing you can look at this week. How many times people are referred to as trees and compared to trees? It's in there a lot. Psalms 1 is an obvious example. So go chase some of those down, and I think it will help you understand this spiritual walk a little better, because we can look outside and we can see the trees and understand what's happening with them. And then as we look at it from a spiritual perspective, it helps it all make more sense. So, okay, as I promised, I have a giveaway today to hopefully make it not too sad that we couldn't have a meeting last week. It is interesting how much agriculture is a huge part of our faith. Very much so. It's a very agriculturally based. I think it's because you look outside, you're going to see the plant life, you're going to see the animals, you're going to see the cycles of the seasons. So we can readily understand spiritual ideas when he explains it in agricultural terms, which I think is really, really, it's cool, because we're surrounded by it. I've always been a huge proponent of taking your kids out for nature study and helping them to identify the trees and the flowers and taking care of the animals. So it helps us to understand those spiritual truths better. Okay, the more we are pruned, the better we will grow, the more and better fruit we will produce. Absolutely. And we see that again in John chapter 15, that explains that idea of pruning and staying connected to the vine. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I have. I have an issue of Torah Sisters magazine. This is July, August 2023. It has a lot about gardening and farmers markets. It's, again, very agriculturally based. So if you would like to win this, would you please, in the chat, say me or something so that I know that you would like to win a copy of this. And then once you've done that, I will go ahead and I think I've got someone handy that can randomly pick a number, and we will, what you can do is just email me if you're the winner. Email me at sheepmommy@yahoo.com, and I will get that sent out to you. All right. We'll give you another minute here to say if you would like to win it. I want to see what some of these are. Oh, there's even an article by me in here. Let's see what it is. All right, we've got a few more. I'll give you another minute to get your name up there. All right, let me see which one was mine. Learning to truly rest on Shabbat. That's what it was, page 14. There we go. Learning to truly rest on Shabbat. That's the article that I wrote in this one. All right. 10 seconds, last call. If you would like to win it, make sure you say me in the chat, and then we'll pick a winner. All right.
Me.
Okay.
Sorry.
Could you please pick a number between 1 and 4?
1 and 4?
Mm-hmm.
3.
All right, number 3 is Lori Dawn. All right, so I think you have my email. If you could give me your address again, go ahead and email me to remind me, and I will get that mailed out to you. And I do have a few more, so make sure that you join us next week, and I'll have another issue to hand out. Okay. All right. We're going to call it good for tonight. And thank you so much for joining me. We will see you next Monday night at 7, and we will talk about chapter 4. All right. Shalom, everybody. Have a good evening.
It was beautiful.